Ukraine's front line has become something the world has not seen since the Second World War. A battlefield where dozens of nationalities fight side by side against a single invading army. Today, as roughly 880,000 troops defend Ukrainian territory against Russian forces, they are not fighting alone. According to Ukraine's military ombudsman, close to 16,000 foreign volunteers from at least 72 countries are now serving inside Ukraine's defense forces. It is one of the largest international military mobilizations of the modern era, and it did not happen by accident. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion in February 2022, Ukraine's government moved quickly to open its doors to outside fighters. President Volodymyr Zelensky announced the creation of the International Legion, a unit built specifically for foreigners willing to take up arms in defense of Ukraine. What began as a few hundred volunteers a month has grown into a steady pipeline. Ukrainian officials say around 600 new foreign recruits now sign contracts every month, drawn by a mix of duty, conviction, adventure, and personal loss. The numbers reveal something unexpected. Nearly 40% of all foreign volunteers fighting for Ukraine come from Latin America. Colombians make up the single largest contingent. Many of them are military veterans who spent years fighting FARC guerrillas, right-wing paramilitaries, and drug trafficking networks in the jungles and mountains of their own country. That background in irregular, close-quarters combat has proven unexpectedly valuable in the trench warfare and artillery duels of eastern Ukraine. Entire units within Ukraine's mechanized brigades are now built around Colombian volunteers, who bring decades of counterinsurgency experience to a war defined by drones, minefields, and constant shelling. They are not the only Latin Americans in the trenches. Brazilian, Peruvian, and Argentine citizens have also enlisted, some with prior military service, other civilians who chose to learn the fundamentals of modern warfare from scratch. Their motivations vary, but many describe a shared sense that Ukraine's fight is not only Ukraine's fight. For volunteers who grew up under the shadow of authoritarian rule or internal conflict in their home countries, defending a democracy under invasion carries a personal weight. Belarusian volunteers form another striking part of this story. Belarus, run by Alexander Lukashenko, allowed Russian troops to stage part of the 2022 invasion from its territory. For Belarusians who oppose their own government, fighting alongside Ukraine has become a way of striking back at the system they could not challenge at home. Many see the war in Ukraine as inseparable from their own country's future. If Ukraine holds the line against Moscow, they argue, the pressure on Lukashenko's government only grows. Some Belarusian fighters have organized into their own battalions within Ukraine's forces, training, fighting, and in some cases dying for a country that is not technically their own, in pursuit of a freedom they hope to eventually bring home. Beyond Latin America and Belarus, the roster of foreign volunteers reads like a map of nearly every continent. Europeans from Britain, Poland, the Baltic states, and the Nordic countries have joined in significant numbers, some as former soldiers, others as first-time recruits motivated by the sense that Ukraine's war is a test case for the security of the entire continent. Volunteers have also arrived from the United States, Canada, Georgia, and beyond, each bringing different skills, from combat medicine to drone operations to logistics and engineering. Ukraine's ground forces alone have logged more than 10,000 foreign volunteers who have served or are currently serving, a figure that does not even capture foreign nationals attached to intelligence units, the National Guard, or other branches. When those additional forces are counted, the total climbs toward the 16,000 figure now cited by Ukrainian officials. Some units have grown so reliant on international manpower that Ukrainian commanders have floated plans to raise the share of foreign recruits in assault and infantry formations to as much as half their total strength. Life as a foreign volunteer in Ukraine is not simple. Legally, Foreign fighters serving in Ukraine's defense forces hold the same rights and responsibilities as Ukrainian citizens, with one key difference. After 6 months of service, they retain the right to end their contract and leave. In practice, many stay far longer. Since Ukraine's office of the Military Ombudsman began operating this year, it has already logged hundreds of formal complaints from foreign service members and their families, covering pay disputes, equipment shortages, medical care, and the granting of official combat veteran status. Officials say a dedicated working group now reviews these cases at every stage of a volunteer service. An acknowledgement that recruiting tens of thousands of outsiders into an active war brings real administrative and human strain. Despite the challenges, the flow of volunteers has not slowed. For many, the calculation is simple. Ukraine represents a rare, tangible front line against the kind of authoritarian expansion they have watched erode freedoms elsewhere, whether in their own country's recent history or in the politics of neighboring states. For Colombian veterans, it is a continuation of a lifetime spent fighting insurgencies, now redirected against a conventional invading army. For Belarusians, it is a proxy battle for their own nation's independence. For Europeans, it is often framed as a defense of the continent's eastern border, before that fight has to be fought closer to home. The war these volunteers are fighting looks nothing like the conflicts many of them trained for. Ukraine's front lines are now dominated by drones, from cheap first-person view quadcopters that hunt individual soldiers to long-range strike drones that reach deep behind the lines. Foreign volunteers with backgrounds in guerrilla warfare or conventional infantry have had to learn, often within weeks of arriving, how to move, dig in, and fight under constant aerial surveillance. Trench networks stretch for kilometers, artillery duels are near constant, and the margin between life and death is frequently measured in the seconds it takes to hear a drone overhead. Colombian volunteers, in particular, have often noted that no amount of jungle warfare experience fully prepares a soldier for that kind of exposure, even as their instincts for ambush, camouflage, and small unit tactics translate directly into trench combat. Recruitment itself has become more organized over time. Ukraine's foreign recruitment centers now handle applications, screening, and onboarding for international volunteers, a system that did not exist in the chaotic early weeks of the invasion in 2022. Back then, foreign fighters often arrived with little more than a passport and a willingness to serve. Today, the process is more structured, with the Ukrainian government covering travel costs for many incoming volunteers and assigning them to brigades based on prior experience, language ability, and specialization, whether that is infantry, engineering, medicine, or unmanned systems. The scale of foreign involvement has not gone unnoticed by Russia and its allies. Moscow has pointed to international volunteers as evidence of what it calls foreign interference in the conflict, even as it has relied on its own foreign manpower, including thousands of North Korean troops deployed to help repel Ukrainian forces from Russian territory. The contrast is telling. Ukraine's foreign fighters are volunteers who chose to join a cause, while Russia's foreign forces have largely arrived through state-to-state arrangements between authoritarian governments. Not every story ends the same way. Foreign volunteers have died in Ukraine's trenches, in artillery strikes, and in the drone-saturated skies above the front. Their sacrifices often reported quietly back home, far from the scale of attention given to Ukrainian losses. Families in Bogota, Minsk, Sao Paulo, and dozens of other cities have had to reckon with the fact that a relative chose to fight and die in a war thousands of kilometers away, for a country that was not their own, but a cause they believed transcended borders. What ties these volunteers together is not nationality, ideology, or even military background. It is a shared judgment that this war, fought in the trenches, fields, and cities of Ukraine, is not a purely local conflict. It has become, in the eyes of thousands of foreign fighters from more than 70 countries, a defining struggle of the era, one worth leaving home, risking everything, and standing shoulder to shoulder with Ukrainian soldiers to fight to its end.